All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back again with Chelsea late night, latest news. Lots going on. And as you can see, Luis Enrique is out of the mix. Some people are saying, Miz, you're in the mud. Look, it is what it is. It is what it is.
All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin.
All right, welcome back to the other side of the coin, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get stuck into these. So many news to go through. So let's get buzzing. Let's go through this blitz. First up, breaking news. This is what is the top news today, and it's circulating all around social media. Exclusive: Luis Enrique no longer amongst favourites for Chelsea coach, leaving Spurs with a potential free run. This is from Matt Law. Look, I'm not surprised. I've said it over the last couple of videos. It looks like Julian Nagelsmann is the clear-cut favorite. Off the back of the news we had recently, how Luis Enrique wanted the job before the Real Madrid tie and was disappointed that it wasn't given to him, and in fact was given to Frank Lampard, as we now have him as interim manager. It was clear to me that I don't think the board and the owners are overly too keen with Luis Enrique. I think they've got their eyes set on Nagelsmann, definitely the board members in terms of Christopher Vivell, Lawrence Stewart, Paul Winstanley. I think Nagelsmann has quite a lot of friends in our board, to say the least. But look, I'm not against Nagelsmann to be Chelsea manager. I just have some concerns with the players that we have. I just hope that Nagelsmann can demand respect, honestly, and command respect. But having said that, I think there's a lot of players that's going to go. So maybe Nagelsmann will end up having a totally new team, which also I hope that he has some say. There's now some rumors saying the reason why Luis Enrique is not getting this particular opportunity is because he's made some demands. Now, I don't know how we should read into that. I think every manager should have an opportunity to make some sort of demands, to have some sort of imprint. I'm not entirely comfortable that that is the only reason that he's made some, demands which just didn't line up with the hierarchy. Okay, fine. It all depends on what the demands are, but I just hope the new manager can still have some sort of say. We don't want another yes man. Do you know what I mean? Like, sure, there is a collaborative nature, but I don't want the new manager to just bend over backwards and just accept anything and everything. Like, I think our owners this season, let's be honest, have made a lot of mistakes, and they do need to rectify that. They do need to learn from it, and hopefully they don't do this again. Thiago Silva has come out openly and said we cannot make the same mistakes. Watch his video where he talks about the current situation. If you haven't, go to social media, watch his video, his latest video. It's all over social media. He starts the first line by saying it was a mistake from the beginning. The first step was a mistake, but we move on. I think he's referring to Thomas Tuchel or maybe Potter. I think a lot of people are saying he's referring to Thomas Tuchel being sacked. And then he goes on to say it's not always on the manager. So look, and of course, all the other stuff that Thiago Silva said in terms of the transfer window, we need to slow down. There needs to be a strategy. 8 people came in January. They had to increase the size of the changing room. It's difficult for a manager to choose 11 out of 30 players. Players are going to be unhappy. Some are going to be unhappy. So we do need to communicate with the manager as well. Chelsea have cooled interest in Luis Enrique during the last round of talks. Chelsea were not happy with some of the points and feelings were not right. This is from Fabrizio Romano. Chelsea have doubts over Luis Enrique after he made several demands during the talks. Now, some people are saying, I saw Agent Datro or whoever, Agent D, I don't really pay too much attention, but it looks like some people are saying that person knows what they're talking about. And some of the demands written on his Twitter profile that apparently Luis Enrique made was a commander in midfield and a well-rounded mobile striker up front. Wanted some new wingers as well. Wanted to have more say in the transfer market, who stays, who goes. So I feel like these shouldn't be the reasons why you don't pick up a particular manager. I feel like these are very, very common things for a manager to ask for. But Apparently, those demands were a little bit too far-fetched, but then again, H&D, I don't know how much you want to buy into H&D. Chelsea have no further talks planned with Enrique, despite him flying to London 2 weeks ago. So look, I think the Luis Enrique situation is dead. I'll be very surprised if he ends up taking the Spurs job. Spurs should be really looking at someone like Graham Potter. I'm not even lying. I think Graham Potter, he skipped a step. I think Spurs should have been his next step after Brighton, or even De Zerbi. Like if Spurs are able to get De Zerbi, I think De Zerbi is doing a madness, and I think De Zerbi could do well with that Spurs setup, the way they're bored. Levy, Daniel Levy doesn't really go out there and buy top-notch players. So I'll be very surprised if Luis Enrique takes that job. Julian Nagelsmann impressed during talks, but Chelsea have also contacted Pochettino. Pochettino is back in the mix. Look, I just wish Chelsea just cut the chase and just went to Nagelsmann. Just get this done. I think fans now, we're just at a stage where we just want to know who's going to be the guy for taking over next season, so we can have some light at the end of the tunnel. It's been an abysmal season, a devastating season, and the future at the moment, for me, it's looking bleak. And I need a new gaffer to really change things around. A lot of people are already claiming, we better be winning the league next season, or better be challenging for the league. It's only one game per week. And I'm like, well, the rest of the Premier League are going to be sleeping. They're not going to be improving. They're not going to be moving forward. Teams like Newcastle, they're only going to get better pound for pound. Man United will get better. Arsenal are in the mix now. Man City. Liverpool will go through a revamp as well. One team that I probably see maybe not doing well is Spurs, maybe, with Harry Kane potentially leaving, some of their players leaving. That's a team that could start faltering. But there will be other teams, and don't disregard Brighton, your Aston Villas. They've got good managers. They can always pose a bit of threat. So, one game a week, people compare our time from previously when we had Hazard, Costa, all of those players back in that time when we had one game a week under Antonio Conte. People forget those players won the Premier League literally a couple of seasons before that. So, it's not the same situation. Different ownership now, different board now. Players are not of that sort of caliber. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're high quality, but they're young players. Those players were very, very mature, very experienced. Even the likes of Pedro and Willian, they were key cogs back in that time. So it's a different setup. To reference back to that point that we played one game a week back then, and it's definitely going to work out again. Excuse me. It's actually quite mad to think that way. Julian Nagelsmann is favourite since day one, but it's on the owners. Let's see how the conversations go in the next days with Nagelsmann and other candidates. This is from Fabrizio Romano. As I said, Julian Nagelsmann is the clear-cut favourite. And once again, I'm not going to be crying to bed if it's Nagelsmann. I think he's a fantastic manager. I think he's a good tactician. I think if the players buy into him, I think we can go a long way. It's just about, can the players respect him? That's the thing. I hope Nagelsmann comes in and commands respect. He puts his authority, he puts his stance down. It's very difficult. This is where the owners, they really do need to step back. I don't want Nagelsmann coming in and the owners going into the dressing room on a regular basis, undermining Nagelsmann's stature. Like, I need Nagelsmann to really own that dressing room, really own that set of players. I don't want anyone to come and intervene. Like, if anyone has something to say to Nagelsmann later on, privately, or talk to players during the training ground, not in the dressing room. Not just let Nagelsmann be the boss there, be the top dog there. So I hope some of these attitude does change for us. Some Chelsea players will have wage cuts of up to 30%. Kepa, Havertz, Kovacic, Kante, Ziyech, and Pulisic will keep their full wage if they stay. Now, see, this is going to become a bit of another toxic situation. Now, look at the names that could potentially keep their wages because they were under the previous regime. Do you think the new players, like in the sense of Sterling, I think even Enzo Fernandez and Mudryk and all of those, whoever the new players are under the new regime, will take a pay cut because they've agreed on it? But players like Kepa, Havertz, Kovacic, Kante, Ziyech, if they stay, there is no pay cut. Now, look, Ziyech is potentially going to move on. Pulisic is potentially going to move on. Well, they have to move on, in my personal opinion. But Havertz, if he stays around, there's no one, like, he's in no hurry to leave. He can potentially say, I'm staying. He's on really smart wages. Kepa, the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Kante, we already know we want to keep him anyway. I think the owners want to keep him around, so that's fine. We need a player like Kante, I suppose, in midfield, even though he may not be available all the time, even though we have to manage his time. I think the odd game here and there when he does get to play, I think he does provide some sort of impetus. Kovacic similarly as well, but this could potentially, if Havertz and these players, they stay around, players like Sterling, as I said, taking a 30% wage cut while these guys keep their money. There's a lot to think about. This is why I would get rid of Havertz. I would definitely contemplate getting rid of Kepa as well and getting a new keeper. Maybe even get rid of Mendy. I don't know how much exactly Kovacic is on, but there's question marks in regards to Kovacic as well. His performances hasn't been that great in recent times. And overall, I think we know Kovacic just doesn't give us enough from midfield, right? He looks really, really good. Which, like, you can probably draw parallels to João Felix too. So, look, and even the players that are going to get wage cuts, don't be surprised if some of them call up their agent and go, hey, I'm not really keen to take some of these wage cuts. I still believe I have demand and I want to leave. So, look, there could be a mass level of players leaving. And once again, you're going to have to start from scrap. Like, this season was meant to be that transitional season, but it's turned out to be a disastrous season. Some Chelsea players have privately questioned their futures ahead of the summer window after the disastrous season. There you go, everything that I've just mentioned. I'm not surprised one bit. Sources have spoken of panic at raising funds for FFP, and there have been suggestions that almost every player could be up for sale. Now, this is what I don't understand. Jacob Steinberg going out and saying there could be a sense of panic due to FFP. Makes me wonder, why did you get all of these players in January? 8 players. Like, fan base were obviously ecstatic. I was ecstatic. We were all ecstatic, but we're fans. That's why. But when you really stop and deep it, I don't think there was any need to get 8 players. Fans would have been happy with 2 or 3 max. Key players, defensive midfielder, which we still didn't get after all of those players that we bought. We needed a striker, which we had, but we didn't have any plans for Aubameyang or David Datra Fofana. But why weren't they thinking? Why is it now that we're thinking, ooh, now the panic's sitting in? Why weren't you thinking in January that if you did a madness like that, we bought all of these players, that it was going to have some FFP implications? And on top of that, now that we're not going to be in Europe, that's less revenue. Our stadium is already small, so we're not going to generate that much match day income anyway. On top of that, we don't have enough match days as well next season. It's only going to be 1 a week. This is why it was very important to make it to some level of European competition, because the match day fees are very, very important. Match day revenue is important. Now that is going to get taken off, and this is why players are taking 30% cut. There are already 3 guaranteed additions into the squad next season: Nkunku, Gusto, and Colwell. So as if our squad wasn't bloated enough, and now we've got 3 more players coming in. So players need to go. For the new manager to be somewhat successful, a lot of players need to go. A lot of players we have to focus on letting players go before we think about getting a striker, defensive midfielder, goalkeeper, and all of that stuff that we're thinking. That's number 1. We don't want the new manager to come in and have 80,000 players lined up in front of him at preseason. I don't think that's fair. We've got to start the preseason with predominantly of the players that need to go, must go. Co-sporting directors Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart will take charge of the overhaul. Chelsea need to offload as many as 10 players in time for next permanent head coach to start work in the summer. This is from Matt Law. It's exactly what I just said. We need to ensure for the new manager we don't screw up again. And this is the final message that I want to providing this particular video. We've screwed up royally this season. We have screwed up royally. But I don't expect next season, if we end up being 13th, 14th this season, I don't expect us to now go ahead and compete for the Premier League next season. No, not at all. We've got a lot of hard work lined up. Lots of hard work lined up. Trim down the squad. Get a manager, obviously. Set a philosophy, set a style of play. Get the players buying. And work hard. Work hard. Hopefully the owners can take a step back, not get involved so much. Just watch from afar. Hold the board members accountable. Speak to the board members. If you do want to go to and speak to players, no problems, do that in training. If we achieve some success, then go to the dressing room and be there with them. But don't need to be involved in day-to-day operations on a regular basis. Let the board members do that. And yeah, have a strategy for transfers. Have a clear-cut strategy. No more gun-ho selections. Who's Arsenal interested? Who's Spurs interested? Who's Man United interested? Let's have a plan. So let's see what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys have enjoyed this. Smash the like button if you have. If you're here for the first time, subscribe, hit the bell notification to stay in touch with all my content. Till next time. See ya.